Hey everybody, welcome back to the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. My name is Scott. If you're new to this channel and you're looking for reviews of different whiskeys such as bourbons, ryes, American style whiskeys, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also make sure to hit the bell notification. That's going to simply alert you to when I'm doing new live streams, uploads, things along those lines. If you're already a supporter of the channel, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. So today we're going to be taking a look at two different products from J.W. Kelly. This is going to be first their single barrel and their newly released Melrose Rye Whiskey. So why don't we get into the review? All right, so why don't we first start off with the single barrel bourbon that they have, and then we'll kind of work our way into the rye. Generally, I like to try to do the bourbons before ryes, just because rye in itself can be fairly dominating in terms of just the grain that it is. So we'll first start off with the J.W. Kelly. So again, this company is out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's a newly reformed brand. So there is some history, some lineage that goes back to James Watt Kelly. The significance of 1866 was really once he established himself in the Chattanooga area, he really started to kind of dominate that market. And he kind of operated with essentially 12 different type of brands under the J.W. Kelly brand itself. Did a lot of different things. So he became very popular, had a tavern on Market Street. So he really developed his name. So that establish of 1866 really became, very true based on the information that I was able to find. So, thus the significance of the 1866 that's on the bottle. So I'll also have some additional information linked below. So if you want to check out something further regarding J.W. Kelly, feel free to do so. So why don't we start again with the Old Milford Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This is the single barrel double oaked. So mash bill on this, from what I was able to find, was 75% corn, 20% rye, and 5% malted barley. So a fairly standard style of mash bill for the most part. So again, I wanted to start with the bourbon, and we'll kind of work our way into the rye. But also non-age stated regarding the bourbon. MSRP on this was right around that $60 range. So a little bit of information on that product. And I think their distribution is fairly significant. I think they're really out there nowadays, really kind of pushing the product. So I've seen them in several areas that I've been, and they've got quite a bit of product that's out on the shelves. So anyway, so typically, like I try to do with most of my reviews, is we'll go through again the appearance, we'll go through the nosing, the taste, what it is on the palate, the finish, and then any other real kind of general information, kind of going forward. So, all right, so why don't we get into the review? So, as you can see, this is a really, really nice kind of, copperish, this reddish kind of tone to it. So it's looking like, there's some age to it. I wasn't able to verify, any char levels or anything like that. But, just based on the color, it's really picked up a nice, fair amount of color from that barrel. So lending itself to, maybe have something with a little bit of age with that kind of color to it. So, all right, let's get into the nose and see what we've got here. So right away, you're picking up a lot of the kind of the burnt sugars, that caramel, Definitely there's some chocolate that's there as well. The chocolate that's there is more of like a cake batter type of chocolate. So it's fairly sweet on the nose. Definitely some oak. This is kind of interesting. I'm actually picking up a bit of like a rum kind of note to it. It's not finished in anything. It is double oaked, but I'm getting this like rum type of character to it as well on the nose. But yeah, that oak and that chocolate, that rum note is really kind of coming through. It's a really interesting, nice nose. All right, let's see what we've got on the palate. Cheers. So I don't think I mentioned before, proof-wise, this is 109 or 54.5% ABV. So there's a little bit of proof and everything to it. My initial thought is right away you get hit with that little bit of heat right up front. So rather than try to judge off of, kind of that first sip, I'd like to try to get the palate coated a little bit just to start to get past that little bit of initial burn. And then you start to pick up a little bit more of the flavor profile. So, yeah, so right away you're kind of hit with a lot of that nice oak, a little bit of burn again, still there, 109 proof. Rye spice is fantastic on this. A little bit of honey kind of coming through. Fairly oak dominant. Rye is there for sure. I mean, even at only 20% rye, it's fairly significant in this mash bill. Oak for sure. Those burnt sugars, kind of a little bit of a muted vanilla note to it. Yeah, so it's fairly, so I would say in terms of the palate, you get hit right away with a little bit of sweetness. It's fairly oak dominant. So it's making me believe there's a little bit of age to it as oaky as it is. The burnt sugar and caramels are there. That's a little bit more on the kind of the back of the palate. It coats the mouth fairly well. A little bit of corn presence there as well. Kind of the grainy nature of bourbon. But yeah, I would say a little bit on the dry side. Finish-wise, probably on that medium side, but it's finishing very oaky, leathery, kind of tobacco. The sweetness is more up front, but as the finish begins to really develop on this, you're left more with the oak, that leather, the tobacco type of notes to it. Yeah, and I would say with this, especially initially when you're sipping this, the 109 proof, it lets you know it's that like immediately. So I think once you get into 2, 3, 4 sips, you start to get a little more acclimated, used to that proof that's there. So, before you, kind of really get into it, try to have a couple of sips or something along those lines, just, to kind of let that, your palate kind of acclimate to what it is you're about ready to taste. But yeah, nice, straightforward, single barrel. The double oak part, You know, maybe the double oak part has kind of mellowed it out a little bit, kind of gave it a little bit of sweetness, but it's still fairly oak dominant. So if you're aging it, you know, in a barrel for several years and then finish it in another new charred oak barrel, you're probably going to get, again, you can get a little more color. So, you know, from the new char in the secondary barrel, you know, and then that has a tendency at times, depending on how long it sits in there, to pick up some of that immediate, you know, kind of oakiness to a bourbon. So I think in terms of the double oaked portion, I think it's done exactly like maybe what their intention was to do. So, you know, very, very good. It's a good, you know, nice drinking, you know, bourbon. So I would have no problems, you know, drinking, you know, this whatsoever. So, all right. So let's go on to, so this is their newly released, I'm just going to take a quick sip here. So the rye, so this is was just released, I believe, in September, I believe, of this year. September or October of 18, they introduced the Melrose Rye Whiskey. And this is finished in what they called, I believe it's Amarone barrels. So it is a fairly expensive wine from what I was able to find, and a little more on the kind of the rare side as well. So that was kind of interesting, you know, in itself. So we'll see kind of what the wine barrel kind of, you know, imparts into the rye whiskey. So mash bill on this was undisclosed. I wasn't able to find a mash. MSRP on this was right around the $65 price range. Proof wise, again, 92 proof or 46% ABV. So we shouldn't have as much heat, you know, as we did with the bourbon. So, all right, let's get into the review. So with this, you can see more of kind of a light amber type of color to it. So, but still really nice looking rye whiskey. So, all right, let's get into the nose here and see what we've got. All right, so my initial, I guess, note right away is a bit of that pickle type of note, followed by a little bit of kind of, there's a little bit of like butter type of note to it. That rye spices is there for sure, but it's coming through to me as more of a pickle type of note than it is like a spearmint or anything like that. But you are getting this secondary, you know, barrel. I don't know if I would necessarily, if I didn't know what it was, if I'd be able to pick out what it was. It's not coming through as like a super sweet wine or anything like that, but there is more of a secondary type of finishing note to that. But yeah, definitely that kind of butter or pickle type of nose to it. All right, this will be interesting. Let's give this a taste. Cheers. All right, let's give this another quick little try here again. All right, so very similar to the nose on this. So I guess right away, I would say in terms of the mouthfeel is nice, fairly like velvety, creamy. That pickle is definitely there for sure. There's a finishing aspect that you get right after the pickle. For me, it's more of a cognac type of finish. Not super sweet or anything like that, but I pick up more of a cognac type of note to it. And I've never had that Amarone wine, so I don't have a reference for what that is. But all I can say is that there's a little bit more of a cognac kind of flavor to that, but less sweet than that. But for me, up front, it's nice and it's got a good mouthfeel, oily, but that pickle for me is kind of dominating the profile on the rye. So if that's something that you like in a rye whiskey, you'll absolutely probably love this. It's secondary, I would say, as the finish begins to kind of really develop on this. Less dry for sure. Finishes a little sweeter. That oak is there, but the finishing aspect is there. I'm just going to stick with kind of that cognac type of note to it, just a lesser sweet cognac. So, but there's definitely a finish to this rye whiskey. But initially, and for me, the dominant flavor that I'm getting is the pickle type of note that at times a lot of people pick up with rye whiskey. It'll be sometimes either a pickle or a dill, something along those lines, or a spearmint. But this is way more on the dill side of things for me. So, but finish wise, I'd say is probably a little bit short to medium. I would say. Leaves you with a little bit of oak, really no dryness. It still leaves that kind of nice velvety feel, in your mouth. But yeah, I would say it's a really nice, straightforward, rye whiskey. If those profiles, fit something that you would enjoy, I would say give it a try. And again, I'll have all of the information for this and the distillery linked in the description box below, so you can check that out and see maybe where you can pick up some of their products. So yeah, I think they've done a really nice job with these these whiskeys. So they have a couple of other different things in their lineup as well. So again, I'll have all that information linked below. So anyway, so. Why don't you, leave me some comments, thumbs up. I love the comment part of things. If you've tried this, if it's something that you've had or are looking for, that part of it, I'm always interested to know if people have tried some of the things that I have, and are you getting some of the same, flavor profiles? That's always very interesting, to me as well. So again, I'll have links to the Patreon page I've got. So there's some updates to that. So check that out if you want to support or contribute to the channel. And as always, like I say, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.